right, so I got this diamond plate splash guard that somebody had made for this Boyd Coddington swing arm out of here. And I'm gonna go ahead and make a really neat replacement piece for this out of a piece of sheet aluminum in my Bailey Power bead roller. Kind of a small part that most people probably wouldn't even notice, but I know it's there, now you'll know it's there, so watch how I do it. I'm just using this nibbler to cut a small section off this big 4x4 sheet of aluminum. So I'm gonna lay this out real quick for you. First thing I need to do is cut the panel. This edge is the edge I just cut off with the nibbler, but it's not straight, so I need to straighten that up. This edge is perfectly straight, so I'm gonna work from this edge and lay the piece out. So the piece is 13.5 inches long by 5 inches wide. I can just lay my edge at 5 inches and then just measure my 13.5. And it's going to be there. So this inside this border is going to be the exact size of my panel. Okay, so here's my Diacro sheet metal shear. It's really small. My shop is small. I don't need big equipment because I'm only doing motorcycle parts, which everything's pretty small, but it's kind of hard for me to get the camera in here for you to see me shear this, but I'm going to come in and cut this piece on the shear and get it all squared up and then start really embellishing the part. So I just come in and line my edge up with the edge of the shear. So I just line my part up with the edge of the shear and just pull the handle down and cut. You see it gives me a nice square cut there. Now I just need to cut the long side of it. And then I've got the general outline for my panel. There you go. Here's the diamond plate splash guard that I took off the Boyd Coddington swing arm. And here's the piece of aluminum I'm going to use to replace it. You can see the diamond plate's a lot thicker than a piece of aluminum I have. First of all, it's not a structural part, so you don't need it to be this heavy. But second, this piece of aluminum's already pretty strong and firm. But once I bead roll it, the bead rolling really adds structural integrity to the metal. So it's going to make it even stronger, and it's actually going to cause me some problems because I need to roll it. But one of the things I need to do is before I lay out the pattern I'm going to hit with the bead roller is I need to make sure I'm not running into any important critical parts like these holes that mount it. So I'm going to go ahead and transfer those holes right now on here. And this is a pretty neat way you do this. I'm just going to use the original part and line it up and rock it so that it rolls along my replacement part. And those holes are going to transfer right over. And I will drill them later for reasons to be explained. But I just mark them right now. And then I'm going to roll my piece down and mark them on the other end. That way, my holes aren't going to be in an area where I'm trying to bead roll. So now I know basically where these 4 mount holes have to be. My bead rolling pattern has to be inside that area. Okay, I want to round these corners off. I don't like how they left them square on the diamond plate. So I'm going to use a challenge coin that a United States Marine veteran gave me just to get a visual feel for how this part is going to look. I can always go back and change this later if I want to, but I usually have a good idea of how I want it to look and how I want it to feel. Go ahead and round these corners off with the Sharpie, just visually. I can cut it later. Now what I need to do is lay out the pattern that I'm going to hit with the bead roller. What I'm going to do is a pleated diamond tuck type design on the aluminum panel with the Bailey bead roller. And I've got the suction cup passenger seat for my BadBoy. My wife never rides with me. She seldom rides with me. I'm not gonna have a permanent seat on it. If she wants to jump on and go somewhere, I can keep this in my backpack and throw it on for her. And I've got pegs and she can jump on and ride. But so anyhow, I have a suction cup seat, and this pattern is exactly what I'm gonna mimic on this panel. And even though the seat will seldom be on the bike, the diamond pattern's a really beautiful pattern. It's gonna look a lot better than this diamond plate did in there. And so now I have my small square set up at a 1/2 inch off the edge of the panel. And that's how I'm gonna mark where the border of my bead roll is gonna be. And I'm just gonna start to lay this out for you. I'm gonna go ahead and do this other side as well. All right, so I want to mimic this pattern on here. My diamonds are probably gonna be a little bit smaller because you want to get at least 3 or 4 diamonds in a row. What I have is a square setup that I can use, that I can change the angle on. So I'm basically gonna look at the edge of this seat and the angle that they have the diamonds cut at here, see how they have the pleating done, and set it up on my variable square. And then what I'm gonna do is, I wanna go a little bit smaller than these diamonds, so I'm just gonna use the thickness of my straight edge, which you can see is smaller than what I have here. And that's gonna allow me to mimic this exact pattern, but in a little bit of a compressed format in this panel for my bead rolling. Set a couple V blocks up just to allow me to get my edge here. All right, so I'm gonna start from this corner. I'm just gonna draw my line. And I'm gonna pick the other side of the straight edge and then move down and draw that line. Then I can just flip to the other side and finish out the remainder of these lines. There you go. There's my pattern, and I can't stress how important layout is in something like this. This is the hardest part of it, is laying it out and knowing how you want it to look and making that work. When I'm bead rolling, I'm also going to want to raise this bead rolled panel up to give the panel some depth. So I'm going to want to radius this corners, because my bead roller, I can cut this square edge, but it's going to be very difficult to do that. I need a larger radius that's manageable for me on the bead roller. So I'm going to use this old Billy beer can that our friend Ryan dropped off a couple weeks ago, because if the corners are too tight, they're really hard to cut. And just so I don't mess up, I spray a little bit of brake cleaner on a paper towel, and I'm going to erase these outside pieces so I don't get in with the bead roller and think this is where I'm supposed to roll. So just really erase those lines from my mind so I don't get confused or lost in the process, because it can happen. All right, I got my sharp detailing die set up on the Bailey bead roller, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start working these lines that I made on the interior here And I've already run a test piece through it to kind of find out how much tension I need on the dies. And I'm going to start to tighten down my die. And once I feel I have contact right there, I'm going to give it 2 full turns. There's 1, 1.5, and that's 2. And then I'm just going to hit the foot pedal. And I'm going to feed the part and follow my line. Then I'm going to release. And there's my first line. You can't really see anything yet, but once I start to make multiple lines, you'll see what happens with this. So I'm going to go to my next one. Right, there's my contact point. 1 turn, 2 turns, and same thing. And you can see what it's doing on the backside. You obviously can't feel it, but I can feel the ridges, and it's starting to get a wave to the part. I know I'm going to go back and do the lines that are going the other way. You'll notice as I roll it through, the part is starting to bow up on me. And if you're making a door panel for a car or a floor panel for a car or some kind of flat piece, that bowing is going to be something you have to kind of counter and address. But because this is going to be bent piece in the swing arm anyway, it actually works in my favor, so it doesn't bother me one bit, so I'm not trying to control it. But I'll do some flat pieces for you in the future where I show you how I counter that and keep it flat. And there was my last line on the quilting part of the job. All right, I'm gonna take off the detailing die now and go to a step die. Changing the dies is super easy. Just use the Allen wrench and take the bolt out of the top and bottom end of the shafts and just slide the die right off. Same thing underneath here. Then I just slide my step die on, reverse the process, and I'm ready to do the last piece. And here's my top step die, and you can run these dies either way. I want to step the pleated part of my panel up, so I have the dies put on this way. If I wanted to step it down, I'd put this die on the bottom and the bottom die on the top, but this is the way I'm going to do it, and you'll see once I start rolling how it raises that panel. It's that quick. The die change takes less than a minute, and I'm ready to do another operation. Super easy machine to use. Okay, I'm going to start my stepping procedure up here at the top. And the reason I'm going to start it is sometimes you get a little bit of a deformation from the bead roller where you start and stop your piece. You can try and smooth it over, but I'm going to start and stop this at the top because the top piece is a part of it you're not going to see that much. The bottom is the part you would see the most because of the curvature. So I'm simply going to start right here in the middle, and I'm going to start to tighten my dies just so I get some pressure. And there I've got pressure on the dies. If I let the part angle up like this, the dies are going to give me an angled step. If I hold the part down, it's going to give me more of a square step like is on a die. So this is something you have to keep in mind when you're controlling the part, especially when you're turning the radius on the corner. You have to be doing two things: be paying attention to the line that you drew, and also be paying attention to the fact that the piece is wanting to bow up, because you're going to get a different step angle on the part over the length of it if you don't control it. So there I have contact. I'm going to go 1 full turn, 2 full turns, and 2.5 full turns. And now I'm going to move slow doing this. I'm going to get down low with my eyes so that I can see what I'm doing. And I set up a little battery operated LED light here just so I can really see what's going on. You need to have it out of the way so that I can control the part. But I've got my step piece, and here I go. You got to turn fast going around these corners, otherwise you lose your line. If you lose that line, you're screwed. So see, I have to hold it down here again to get my sharp step as I work down the length of the part. And then roll right over my starting point. I'm going to trim the edges, drill the mounting holes, and I'm going to clean the piece up. Okay, there's a couple ways to trim these corners. One way is with a Beverly shear, which would be my preferred choice. But the Beverly shear is always my preferred way. It's just such a nice tool, and it just cuts that corner so quick and easy. It's effortless. See how quick that happens? And it happens real fast, just like the bead rolling does. That corner comes up on you so fast. I trimmed the top corners in the Beverly shear, but I realized not everybody at home has a Beverly shear. And if you're going to go spend the money to buy the Bailey bead roller, you might not have the money for a Beverly shear, but you can afford a set of hand shears. So they work just as good. You just have to use a little bit more force on your hand, but sometimes they're even more accurate than a Beverly shear because you can turn them a lot easier. So there's one corner there. Here goes my second bottom corner. There's my corners. I'm just going to clean up the edges on the belt sander. I'm ready to put some arch into it. Okay, I need to put some arch in this. You know, it's really hard to put it in a slip roll because the slip roll is going to want to flatten out all the work I just did. So I'm going to do it over my knee. And this is, I don't know if you all remember me making gas tanks in the very first biker build-off that I did, but it's basically the same concept. And you're just going to try and bend real slow and steady. You don't want to get any creases in it, but you start to feel the part give a little bit. And you want to move your hands together as you get closer. You can see I'm just starting to get a little bit of roll in it now. And you just got to be patient and go back and forth a few times until you get the curvature that you need. It does happen to strengthen the metal too. So you can see I'm starting to get that curvature in it. Right, so there you go. So now I got the curvature really close to the original part. And when I bolt it in there, just the fact of where the mounts are will give it a little more flex. So I'm not really worried about it. I have a nice smooth radius on it. Now I'm gonna make these holes, clean it up, and install it. I happen to already have a keyless chuck set up in my Bridgeport milling machine, so I'm just gonna drill right here, and I'm gonna drill with a step drill. Because the nice thing about a step drill is I can drill a smaller hole than I need on one side, and then come back and finish it on the other side with the little 1/4 inch hole that I need for the mounting holes. And what that's gonna do is deburr the hole as I drill, whereas a spiral bit is gonna leave me a burr that I have to clean up. Double check my mounting holes here on the part. Everything looks like it lines up real good. So we'll go ahead and drill. You can see on the back side of my hole, if I use any kind of drill bit, I'm gonna get that burr. Then I can flip it over and come back through. I get a nice clean hole. That's why I do it this way. Right, now to finish the piece out, I'm just going to spray it down with some penetrating oil, like a WD-40, PB Blaster, Gibbs oil, anything will work, but I just spray the piece down and hit it with a Scotch-Brite pad in one direction. You go one direction, it'll deburr the edges and give you a nice texture. All right, let's wipe that off and see what it looks like underneath. I want you to see how you make a really beautiful piece out of a flat piece of aluminum that had no life to it, no character, with the Bailey Power bead roller. You probably wouldn't have noticed the diamond plate piece that was in there at all. It just kind of faded away, but I think this piece is really going to stand out and get some attention. All right, so I personalized this a little bit with the hand stamps. The hand stamps actually deform the metal and make it a little bit wavy on this edge. So I'm gonna go ahead and run this real lightly back through the stepped dies on the bead roller, and that'll smooth it right out. All right, I don't have to go too tight here on the dies, just enough to get a nice roll and smooth my part out. And I can run it through reverse too. Great thing about this machine.